shiny happy people, welcome to Kimbaskrafts. My name is Kim, and if you're new here, hello, welcome. If you're returning, love you guys. This is part 2 of my kit up, and it's kind of part 2. It's part 2. It's going to be put up as part 2, but this is after the fact, okay? Because I recorded part 2, which took me days. It's like 4 hours of video that I tried to edit through, and really, honestly, it was awful. So here's the thing. It was a lot of me trying to figure out. So part 2 is me figuring out what stickers go on what box, and in their groups. And it just, for me, I made it so complicated because I wanted to use all 30 extra spaces that I had. Remember, I have 280 pods in the five boxes, and I only need 250 because I have 250 colors, which meant I had 30 extra boxes, 30 extra pods. And I wanted to use them all because I'm crazy. It's so unnecessary, and I told myself that. I told you guys that. But I was like, no, I can't leave 30 extra spaces. If I have drills that can go in them, we're going to make this happen. And yeah, it literally took me days, number 1. And number 2, I still had a ton of leftover drills. And I'm just like, why did I do that to myself? And so I'm trying to edit this video that is like hours and hours long, days worth of content. And there's like tons of pauses of me like really thinking hard. You can see the smoke enter the screen of me thinking so hard. There's tons of me just mumbling numbers. So I was like, I can't do this. I mean, the editing, it just would have taken a month for me to get through all of that content and try to make it make sense. So I have to do it after the fact. So this is going to be part 2. I'm going to show you my boxes. I'm going to explain why I did what I did the way I did it. I'm going to show you how I did it. And I had to move some symbols. So that's another great thing about doing categories. You know, if you need to move a symbol, not every symbol, but there's a lot of symbols that you could shift into another category if need be. And so I'll show you where I did that just to make them fit better in the boxes. I'm sure there's a way to have made them all fit in their categories without shifting if I hadn't been so hyper focused on using all of the pods. But, you know, sometimes we do silly things, and that wasn't my brightest moment. But we will go over everything. So this is how I did it. I took my list that I made with you guys in part 1, and I took the DMCs because I just have, what I have are my categories and then the DMC number next to it, and then I added up how many were in each category, right? So here's squares and diamonds. And what I did was I took those DMCs and I wrote them down in a list. So this is squares and diamonds. Okay. Then I ran and I got this. I got the legend, and I looked up each one. And initially, at first, I was writing down how many drills were in each bag, and then how many pods I would need if I were to dump them all. And that became so. And then eventually, I was like, "Why am I doing this?" And I ended up starting to just put 1 if I only needed 1 pod, and then if they had more than that, I would put the number of drills. So that made a little more sense. It would have even made more sense if I didn't put a number next to them at all and knew that they only needed 1. So these are all things that could make it easier for you if you choose to do it this way. Again, that would have all been unnecessary, completely and totally unnecessary, if I didn't insist on filling all of the pods. And I say this every time, that next time I'm not going to do that, and I'm not promising you guys anything because I just know how I am. And there's no fixing me. I'm too old. So it's just I don't know. My next Josephine Wall from Diamond Painting Deutschland, I think, has 160 colors in it. And so if I used 3 boxes, that would be what, 150, 68. So I would only have 8 extra boxes. So I might not even be able to. But knowing me, I'll be like, oh, well, I am so used to using 5 boxes. I'll use 5 boxes and then I'll fill up, I'll get rid of all my drills. See, I'm already thinking about it. So anyway, back to this one. This is the important one. So what I do recommend, though, is to write all the DMC numbers down and then to write the symbol down next to it, which is what I did here. See, 158 is that backwards L with a dot in the middle. 334 is a fancy corner one. 413 is whatever that squiggly is. 598 is a cube. 791 is a partial square. It's just missing its right-hand wall. So, and the reason why I did that is, for me, I think this is very important. This step is very important. Now, this is how I package them, just so, you know, God forbid I drop them. Hopefully they won't. So there's 2 in that bag. And there's 3 in this bag. So here's my squares. So I think it's super important that if they're very similar, that you put them together. Okay. So you see how these are all partial squares with a dot in the middle? And you see how this corner here, they're all almost the same shade. It's very confusing, right? And you would think, oh, well, if you're putting them right next to each other, it's going to be even more confusing. Not in my brain. So, and I'm going to explain to you why I think this is important. So when you're looking at the canvas and you see a partial square with a dot in the middle, if you have them scattered, you might not realize that there's 2 of them. Okay, like look at this one. These are partial squares with no dot in the middle. There's only 3 of them. Okay, they're all very similar in color. So if you have one up here, one here, and one down here, one up here, one here, one down here, the first one you see, you might automatically think that's the right one because it looks so similar, right? The color background is very similar. And you might not even realize at that time that there's 2 other ones that it could be, right? And so you just grab the first one you see and you start putting them down. And then you might later on say, oh no, wait, did I do the right one? It's like a last check, your quality control check, right? So if I'm diamond painting, right, and I come across this symbol, right, and I grab this box, I can do a double check. I can say, okay, okay, it is this one. And then I pop the lid open and I know I got the right one. If this was up here and this was down here and this was here and I just happened to grab one, you know, I might just start diamond painting because I'm not even realizing that there were other ones to compare it to. That's how I think of it, you know. So I'm not just automatically grabbing this one and diamond painting it because this one isn't here. It's all the way down here. I don't know that there's 2 that look just like it. So I think it's very important. I think that it helps you do like a final check. So that's how I ended up doing my boxes. I did it last time and it worked for me. Again, these are just recommendations. If you feel like having them all next to each other is just gonna like muddy the waters and make it more complicated for you, then you can figure out how you want to do it. Whether it's I don't know. But so I have like all the partial squares with a dot, then I have dots, then I have the funky corner ones, then I have the partial squares with no dot. He's just a square. These are all kind of like, they don't really have anything in common. And then these are diamonds. And then he went over here because letters and numbers only had 24, so I had an extra 4. And so I let him use up all 4. And I always do numbers, then letters. I have the 2 I's next to each other again, because if I see the lowercase I grab the whole strip. I bring it over and I can say, all right, which one is it? As opposed to if they're completely, this is more likely that you're going to mess it up because they could be completely, opposite ends if you're just putting them willy-nilly on here. And they look so similar. You might not even, you're looking at a very small symbol. So this is a way to just kind of remind yourself to do a double look and make sure you're opening the right one. I got those 2 M's next to each other, the funky one with a roof. Okay, so that was this one. Because I had so many, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 left over. I used 10 extra pods. I had to make up for that, right? So I had to have one that I used almost all of them except for one. So I used 27 out of 28 in here. This is the only one that's empty. It could be my trash container. So again, I went with the arrows. So this was just diamonds and squares and numbers and letters. And then in this one, I did arrows, crosses, circles, and office. And I moved a few things. Around. So I moved from crosses. I moved this one to circles. Remember when I was doing it, I said, this could go to crosses or it could go to circles. Well, I wanted this to fit nicely into 8. So I had 9 with that one. So I moved it over to circles, which made circles perfect. And it made it 16 exactly. So that's why I did that. In office, I moved over a couple things so that it would be an equal 9. And it was that lamp. I had that in technology, but it looks like an office desk lamp. And then the graphs I had in tools. But, you think office work. So with the arrows, I put these arrows going in all different directions next to each other. I wanted these 2 next to each other. So if I put it over here, this one of them would have been alone, which is why I just threw that one up there. So I have like pretty much just like straight arrows going in different directions. Then I have my chunky arrows. These 2 are opposites. These are chunky. Then I have my boxed arrows, my underlined arrows, my circled arrows. Okay. Then I have my crosses. I didn't really group those because they're all basically just crosses. And then my circles, I have the dots at the top. I have these 2, which are circles within circles. I have these 2, which look like ornaments. And then I have these 2, which are double circles. And then those are the same. And then with office, the only ones that I really wanted together were the 2 graphs. Okay. And then I did tools, technology, and use. And so what did I move out or in this one? Okay. So I did move this one, 3072, into technology because I didn't realize it was like a cell phone or an iPod or something like that. In this, I just saw a square. What is it? 3072. I didn't catch on to that little dot. Now remember, when I see it, I see this. I just saw a rectangle. So I put that in squares, but when I got to the sticker, I was like, oh no, that goes here. So that got moved here. Anything else? And then remember, I moved the light, the camera, I mean the office lamp out of technology. So I think that's it. So with the tools, I wanted the fires all next to each other and then the bomb. And then I put all like the pickaxe and the hammer and the swords all next to each other. And then I put the two flags next to each other, the two wrenches going different ways next to each other, and then nothing really with those groupings. Technology, I did the microphone, the headset, and then the two telephones. I did the two batteries. I did the two like satellite kind of symbols. I did the iPod or whatever, and then there was 3 cameras. Well, that's an Instagram, but it looks like a camera. And then like these two could have kind of gone together. Then I did the computer monitor. This is all like computer things, right? Floppy disk. And then the movie camera. And then here's the U's. So the U's, I wanted the 3 U's with a dot in the middle. And then the 2 basic U's. And then the 2 U's with dots on the end. And then he's just an extra. Those two kind of go together. So that's how I did those. And then with the triangles, it was important that those 3 were together. See how very similar in shades they are. And then again with the triangles with the dots in the middle, those 4. And he had dots on his feet. And then the unshaded triangles, they're not filled in. And then those are half shaded, different directions again. And then these are triangles in a square. I moved that over from food because it's a triangle. And the reason why I did that was just because I needed food to fit better. And then those 2 triangles up and down, up and down. And then miscellaneous, I moved the lock over from tools because that's where it was last time. So I know the first place I'm going to look until I got used to it being in tools would be miscellaneous. So I just moved it back over so that these fit into exactly 8 compartments. And then I did weather, all moons, all clouds, all stars. The lightning bolt was extra. And then I did nature, which was the 2 clovers, 2 trees, 2 flowers, and then I moved the soccer ball back over because that's where it was last time. And it would be easy for me to remember that now because I did a whole 90 by 70 whatever with the soccer ball in nature. So I just added the basketball. So the 2 balls are together. Weird, I know, but it's not going to be weird for me because I did that already. Then I did lines. I grouped the lines together with the 2 balls on the end, the 2 balls in the middle, straight lines in different directions, triple lines in different directions, these like cat eyes. These two symbols are exactly the same, just in different directions. Circle with a line in the middle. And then these two don't really have anybody to go with. These two squigglies. And then we're into food, which I just did the 2 apple. And then this was the bread and the hamburger, and then 4 drinks. Transportation, I just did car, boat, train. The 3 paper airplanes all in different directions. The propeller. Those 2 didn't really have partners. 2 pieces of luggage. And now we're into people. So we got 2 Pac-Man, 2 feet, 2 hands, 2 people, 2 faces, my lion face, or 3 faces, and then an eyeball. Okay? And that's how I ended up doing it, guys. I used every single one. So I used, except for that one. So I ended up filling up 279 pods. I am going to, part 3 of my kit up is me actually filling these in. And I am going to just, I am going to edit that. It might be 2 parts, but I do a lot of talking in there, and I do some updates, some kitten chat and stuff like that. I show you how I combat the static. So I still have to edit that. I don't know if I'm going to be able to edit it into to 1. I ended up, it took me like an hour to fill 1 box. And then it was just a lot. And so at one point I did shut the camera off, and I filled up a ton of boxes. And I came back on and showed you the last end of it. And I tell some stories and stuff like that. So I really wanted to go through the whole kit up process, but it just takes hours. And it's just too much. It's too much. So it's easier for me to show you in the end what how my thought process went. So I'm just going to go over real quick. When I wrote the lists out, what I would do is I wrote how the symbols were, and then I highlighted what went into 1 row. So I knew that this only needed 1, I knew this only needed 1, and this and this. And so I highlighted those blue, and then that was a row. And that's how I ended up grouping them. These orange ones were a row. And then I circled what was left, and then I grouped them like that. These were a lot easier, letters and numbers, because, I just do numbers, and then I go in alphabetical order. And I had to do it again with triangles. So the solid ones, like I showed you, the 155, 156, and 341 all went in 1. And then I had to figure out what was going in the next one. Then I highlighted in blue, I highlighted in yellow, I highlighted in orange, I did purple circles, so things like that. Miscellaneous didn't really get a grouping. Weather was easy. There was only 10 or 9 or whatever, so then I knew I just needed moons altogether. And again, nature was pretty easy, trees, flowers, whatever. Tools were another hard one, so you see a lot of highlighting. Crosses I didn't really do in an order. And by the time I got to these pages, it got a lot easier because, there was less stickers on the actual paper. Arrows were another one that I used. Look at all that highlighting. And then with the transportation, I know I just did it off the stickers. I just looked at the stickers and I was like, okay, because there's not a whole lot of grouping in that. Again, with circles, if I pulled a circle, because they were all 1 pod, so I knew that they were all, I wasn't leaving any spaces in between them. And if I pulled like the double circles, then I looked for the other one because I knew there was a second one. I did draw And it was just really quick too, because there's only 9 of them. So that's how I ended up grouping them. Yeah, so the next video should be coming out very, very shortly, because I'm not going to be doing a ton of editing. I'm just going to let it kind of roll. I think. I haven't listened back to any of it because this has been just so time consuming. And I literally, I did not diamond paint for an entire week kitting this project up. So I'm going to go ahead and edit this video real quick and get this out there for you guys. If you are very interested in seeing a lot of mumbling of numbers and pauses, I could break up the other videos. I have them still into like 3 parts and put them up there for you guys as a little series. You let me know in the comments if you're very interested in watching me struggle, because it was a lot of struggling. All right, guys, that's all I have for you today. If you like this video, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up on the way out, and if you want to see more from me, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and join the family and friends here at Kimbaskrafts. I would love to have you. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. Take care. Keep diamond painting.